graduations and a lot of things going on today. So for us just to put a little thing and have a few hundred people come up and join us, we are so honored to have you here. We really are. May 20th. Indira talked about that. You know, it's kind of neck day in Mecklenburg County when legend has it we first declared our independence May 20th, 1775. And it's been a glorious thing. Before I get into started, we're going to throw you some red meat a little bit. Before we get started here, there's some introductions here. I saw some people come in that I want to say thank you for coming a long way. Of course, Representative Tremont from Florida, Johnny C. Taylor Jr., former president of the Thurgood Marshall College Foundation, is here. Johnny, good to see you as well. Joel Wiggins over at North Carolina A&T doing a great job there. So to give you an idea on Joel Wiggins and his professorship style, I was over there teaching a class of about 60 students, and we were talking about victimization and some of the things. And in my first meeting over there, a student comes in and asks Professor Wiggins, he said, look, I'm really excited about this entrepreneurship program. What's the first thing that I can do? Dr. Wiggins said, make your bed tomorrow. And I'm thinking, isn't that some great advice as far as the next generation behind us? And did I see Sloan Ratcliffe in the house today? Sloan, are you that I see you slip in there? Would you stand up and just, where are you here? Are you in the back? Okay. Oh, everybody look at this lady right here. The reason I want you to know, nobody in this state fights harder against this ultra-trans movement than Sloan Ratcliffe. Would you just give her a hand for her? A little bit on my background, as you saw earlier, I grew up in the panhandle of Florida, better known as Lower Alabama, or some have said Redneck Riviera. Take your pick. It was the South. You don't get to real Florida until you get past Tallahassee or Daytona Beach. But grew up there in a wonderful Christian home, a mom and dad that lived out their faith. They didn't just talk the talk. They walk the walk, and I'm so glad to have them here today. Dad is still pastoring, or in their world, shucking the corn, however you want to say that. But Mom and Dad, would you please stand up today? We just want to say thank you for being here. All of our family, about 30 members or so. And then I think I saw Montgomery Taylor, a gentleman that I met before I even knew my wife, 31 years ago. We worked together years ago. You brought your entire family out there. Montgomery, would you stand up? I just want to say thank you for being here today. Thank you so much. So, about 19 years old, after a couple of years of college, my dad moved us, after 16 years there, and moved us to Houston, Texas. Now, I don't know if any of you have been to Houston, Texas in August. It's hot. It's real hot. You think it's hot here. You go to Texas in August, and Houston specifically. I was in D.C. one day telling this story to my staff, and one of the 25-year-olds raised his hand, and we were talking about different questions, and I had just relayed how I had literally had a cassette tape melt on my dashboard. And he raised his hand and said, hey, boss, what's a cassette tape? He's no longer with us, but for different reasons, of course, there. So a little age generational thing there. But after about a year and a half, going through some difficult times, our family, it was the first time really we had known poverty. Things had not gone well for us, and it was just better now that I was 21 years old, had some decent education, and we took off, as you saw in the video. Now, the rest of the story I'm not supposed to share. I had met a young lady in Florida. Once I got here, I realized she had moved on. So lucky for me that I did get lost on that Sunday looking for another church, and certainly God directed our path there. But we served, we worked hard there, served about 5 years in business, and then we felt like God was leading us to do something that we promised each other we would never do, and that would be to follow our dad's footsteps and work full-time in ministry. We wanted no part of it. You handle your junk, I'll handle my junk, and we'll be good, right? But God led us back that direction, went back to school. We finished our theology, education degree, and served 16 years as a pastor. And then in 2013, we felt really compelled to engage in the political arena, to be able to get out there and stand up for our values and principles. And we just looked at each other one day. I remember telling her, I said, babe, I'm running for the United States Congress. Now, some of you are married to smart women that ask good questions that we don't always have the answer to. And she said, well, do you know anybody in Raleigh, much less Washington, D.C.? I said, no, but that's probably a good place to start. So long story short, we want to move you here and get you out of here within that hour. We launched out there really by faith. Didn't have the resources, got through 3 different elections, and I remember arriving in Congress. The second week that I'm there, my chief of staff comes in with some article, and he's looking at me there, and he says, "Boss," he says, "I don't know how to tell you this." I said, "What is it?" He said, "Well," he said, "in this publication, you're ranked the least wealthy member of the 114th class." I'm going, "Well, I've been a pastor for 16 years. That's not always the worst thing in the world." But we were able to accomplish some things. And partly because we didn't make any deals with anybody. We were going to stand on principle. At the end of our first term, we became the first Republican member in history in Congress to be elected to chair the largest caucus in Congress after only 1 term, the Republican Study Committee. It's where we led many different battles and had some major victories there. We went on to then become vice chair, the 4th position in the U.S. House. And from there, we just continued different opportunities. We were redistricted out a couple of years ago. And now we've been on this journey to be able to see, Lord, where is it that we can best serve and continue to serve? And that's where we've kind of reached the place of why we feel like that we need a representative of the state. Sometimes we forget how much power that a state has to push back on the federal government. And we need somebody willing to engage. And part of that engagement is holding our own accountable. Sometimes that's looking our own side now and saying, no, we're going to stand differently than this. This is the kind of courage that we need, because here's what happens. Whether it's the swamp in D.C. or in Raleigh, it's very easy to get there when you talk about all the different things that you want to accomplish. The tough part is having the convictions and the courage to stand the ground and getting it done. That's what we need in Raleigh, North Carolina. Now, so why me? Why am I running? Well, a couple things here. Number one, you heard it in the video, and I'll expand a little bit. I'm running to expand educational opportunities. In North Carolina, we're on the doorstep of what we call funding the students over the systems. But we also must find a way to block these federal mandates that comes with these goodies, even if it's 10%. The problem is, when we talk about education, until we're able to reform it bottom up, we're only treating the symptoms of our nation's ills, in our state's ills. Here's why. Is because until we're able to get in there and clean out the tenureship, clean out all the different things that are programmed in this generation, we're going to keep dealing with the same problems over and over again. We've got to return power to the school boards and the parents, not D.C. or the Raleigh bureaucracies. Also, I'm running for governor primarily to secure economic freedom. You need somebody with a little business background. You need somebody that understands strictly how this operates. You need somebody with a skill set that can manage legislative bodies. We have every opportunity in North Carolina to lead the entire country across multiple sectors. In Charlotte, FinTech is strong. In Raleigh, in the Wake County, the Research Triangle Park Biotech. Aerotech is on the rise here in Greensboro. And we are on the precipice of securing manufacturers to bring to this state that would provide economic security for the next generation. And here's why it's important. North Carolina last year was number 3 in the country when it came to people migrating to this state, only behind Florida and Texas, 124,000. We need to have the infrastructure to be able to build a future. Now, I know that's not the biggest culture war red meat talking point, but you need a governor in this state that can lead both on education and also the economy. We must stay ahead. We've got a great community college system that can jump in there and cure our labor shortages. We've got agricultural communities that can really expand. They need broadband in every single aspect of this corner. These are the kinds of issues that your governor needs to be able to have the background, the experience to lead on. And finally, I'm running for Congress to protect our children and our families. I want you to know something, and I want to emphasize this. I will be tireless in my fight against the intellectual pursuit of our elites promoting child mutilations through gender reassignment surgeries that are damaging our children and our futures. Listen to me clearly. We know who these people are, and we will call them out by name. I'm talking to you, Marcy Bowers and Dane Wicker, and others that are in these intellectual education arenas that are promoting that children as young as 6 or 7 should be choosing their own gender and their own sex. It's an abomination, and as your governor, I will fight day and night to war against such evil. So let me just have a conversation with you about what we're facing right now, what we're looking at here in North Carolina. We've talked about this battle, spiritual, political. There's lots of different factors that come into play here. But North Carolina is projected to be the #1 gubernatorial race in all of the country next year. I recently met with the Republican Governors Association there in Washington, D.C., and all eyes are on this state. And what we need is a governor candidate that can withhold and withstand a level of scrutiny that we've never seen for the chief executive in North Carolina, because they're coming after us. Josh Stein and the Democrats already leaking out that they plan to raise more than $60 million to be able. Now here's the problem with that. Not only does it impact the governor's race, that potentially could put down the presidential race for our Republican candidate, and it will impact Republicans across the state, up and down the ballot. That's why it's so crucial to select the right candidate that can withstand the scrutiny that's going to come with this position. Republicans are going to have to ask themselves at some point, does character and integrity still matter to us? We got plenty of people that get out there for social media clicks or have sound bites. Show me the man or woman that doesn't just talk the talk, but also walks the walk. That's the kind of leaders that we need. And I know we talk a lot about Republicans today, and we should. But that's not the end game. Our job is to build bridges. And here's the thing, I know this isn't, I've traveled the state and all these Republican echo chambers, and they're all important. But somebody's got to start talking about how are we going to take this message to places and communities that don't hear it. I want you to think about that for a second. Oh, it's very easy that we get a group together and we just clap each other on the back, pat each other on the back, clap for every applause line. All that's good and all that's important. But what about the people that frankly have never heard about individualism, about conservative principles, about Judeo-Christian values? What about those folks? They just left out on their own? I'm the highest rated conservative to ever serve in the top 4 leadership positions in the U.S. House. But let me tell you something I'm just as proud of, is I'm the only Republican in the country, not just the state, to win both the United Negro College President's Award and be offered the commencement address at one of our historic HBCUs. You know what I talk about? Talk about Psalms 139. You're fearfully and wonderfully made. That God created you uniquely, and you have the potential and the ability to blow past any of these political elites that try to put a ceiling on the very potential that God created you to have. That's the kind of message that we need to get into all of our communities. And that's the kind of message that I bring to Raleigh, North Carolina. That's a little bit of the how. Until you close, I guess, today, and maybe a little bit of the why. It's very important that we have a message that communicates to a culture that wants to literally cancel us every single day. You've got to be able to be strong. You've got to be able to stand. You've got to be able to have the ability and the background to cut through the clutter and to be able to speak a message of hope and opportunity to people across this state. I mentioned my father here a little bit earlier. Somebody says to me from time to time, why is it so important for you to reach into all the different communities? And I've even had members of Congress say, you know what, you're really wasting your time here or there. The last time I checked, this is one nation under God. This is one America, and that we all pledge to, and we all work toward each other to lift each other up. I remember my dad when I was 7 or 8 years old. He was the chaplain for Berrydale Prison. And I would go with him sometimes as the oldest of 3 boys and the preacher's home there. And he would go, And I'll just tell you, my dad comes from the backwoods of Alabama. I mean, it's a rough section of the world. But I saw God do something in his heart. And I saw him begin to be transformed with a love for his community. And I would see these big men of color that would wrap their arms around my father. They would weep and they would cry. And I would see my father love them back. It's not just about how many bombs we can throw to the other side. It's about people willing to stand up and put the discipline. We have a saying around it, you've already heard it a couple times. It's not just about making an argument, it's about making a difference. You see, anybody can make an argument. I can tweet out something in a little bit. I can be in the A block when you pick your news channel tonight. That's the easy path. When you see that young lady that's got the purple hair with the piercings all in her face, what do you think? You immediately condemn? Do you immediately say, well, I'll tell you what, maybe she's never had that mother that put her arms around her. What do you see about the young man that has the dreadlocks? You say, well, he's not one of us. Is that our position? Or do we see an individual that maybe for the first time needs to hear about hope, needs to hear about faith, needs to hear about how God created them to do something amazing with their skills and talents? Look, I know that's not typical conservative fodder, but that's who I am. And win or lose, I will not change because that's what I grounded in. Thankful for parents and a faith who taught me right from wrong. Is there a price to pay? Yeah, you better believe there is. Always has been. You look out through our history. Anytime that freedom was on the line, it cost something. I've been privileged to serve in different leadership capacities in the United States Congress that has afforded me the opportunities to travel to many different countries. Been in the demilitarization zone between North Korea and South Korea, all through Middle East, Europe, Asia. But there's no place that quite moves me like Normandy. Just being on those grounds, you can still feel the atmosphere that something amazing happened that day. I remember looking down on that hill, and you look down out to the Atlantic Ocean, the beach there. If you remember that day, there were 5 beaches that the Allied forces, General Eisenhower gave the green light. They were a little bit of concern because the weather wasn't great that day. Could they be able to do what they needed to do? Of course, they gave the Americans the 2 toughest beach. Omaha was one of those beaches that you've read about. Utah is the other one. Eisenhower gave the green light, said, go. Problem is that the air cover missed that day. There was no air cover. And as the curator is reliving this story, and I'm just completely captured by the story, he said something that I will never forget. He said, you know, that battle that day, and trying to get the Germans out of France in their World War II, he said the battle that day wasn't won by powerful elites, wasn't won by great military might. It wasn't won by superior air cover. He said it was won by 18 and 19-year-old men that just kept running up in wave after wave after wave. We've not been asked to pay that price. But I ask you again, is our freedoms worth it? Is the American dream worth continuing to stand up and fight for our children and our grandchildren? Is it going to cost something? Yeah, I'll tell you right now it's going to cost something. As we look at what we have to do, the next 40 days are incredibly crucial. There's a saying about the Masters. Some of you are golfers in here. You can't win the Masters on Thursday, but you can what? You can lose it, right? What I mean by that when it comes to this is that when we file officially at the end of June 30th as far as what we're able to raise, financially support, this is not a fundraising speech. We've got a 2-minute number that somebody comes and closes with that. But let me tell you why that's important. Let me tell you why it's so important. Is people across the state, from the business community to women's groups, they're looking at us and they're concerned about the candidate that is out front, has been running for 2.5 years. Not going to get into all the baggage in the background there. But they're looking at us and they want to believe that you have the goods to be able to win. I'm just being completely honest with you. Here's what it's going to take. over the next 40 days, we're going to need to put a number on the board that is incredibly strong. I can feel the kind of the oxygen go by the room. That's not your favorite part, right? And like I said, we're not here to push that. But if you're going to pray, we're going to pray. And I'm just going to drop the number even in the speech today. We're praying that God provides us $500,000 in our campaign and $500,000 in our independent expenditures. If we can do that, it will propel us, if you like, for better expression, to have a place at the table. That's what we need to accomplish to be able to be in this battle. Just for education purposes. The reason I want you to know that is come July, we're going to blow that number out of the water. But I wanted you to have it because there are press in here. Lock that number in because we're going to go get it done. I'll close with this. I've been blessed to have some opportunities. I've been the warrior standing strong in the toughest and highest levels of government. I know together we can make North Carolina proud. Joe Wiggins, this is about meeting at the Biscuitville and the Bojangles, about coming together and being proud of our country. I need your support. I am asking for your support in this battle. I want to thank my wife, Kelly. Boy, I thought she was getting ready to run for something today, right? I was getting a little nervous, frankly. She's been on this journey with me for 31 years. Without her, I promise you, I would not be able to undertake this effort. May God bless you, may God bless your families, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you so much. Over today, we want to close here. Just a quick word. Kevin Powell's the founder and CEO of Kevin Powell's Automotive and Power Sports. You probably know his dealerships. He represents 9 different franchises located in Winston-Salem, Greensboro, Charlotte, Pilot Mountain, North Carolina. Obviously, you guys are aware of, if you've ever heard a radio announcement and you've heard about crazy Kevin Powell, he is here in the flesh today. We're excited. He's an icon in the automobile industry. Please come on up, Kevin, and share a closing word.
Thank you. And yes, just to be clear, it is me, Crazy Kevin Powell. And yes, Congressman Walker and I have known each other for 30 years. We used to work together in business in Winston-Salem. Obviously, Mark and I were both very young 30 years ago, and Congressman Walker's hair survived and mine didn't. So, but I'll tell you what I noticed a long time ago, and Congressman Walker, is that his character, morals, and values, I noticed that early on, and that's survived his entire career. And it's never been more impeccable back then as it is today. Until his entire career, it's always been the same. It's a man that I know, love, and trust. Someone who's willing to stand up and fight for all of us in this great state of North Carolina. However, make no mistake, this will be a fight to get the right man with the right character, morals, and values to stand up and fight for us. And that's my job here today, to let you know that other candidates will be spending millions and millions of dollars against our friend. And so it's up to all of us to make sure that we strongly and prayerfully consider how we can help out financially in his campaign. Over the next 40 days, as Congressman Walker explained, we're looking for 30 brave souls to engage with us financially. And here's what we need. We need 100 people that can commit to $6,400, which is the maximum for each individual to donate to our campaign. So we need 100 people to commit to $6,400 donation. We need 100 people to commit to contributing $2,000. We also need 100 people to commit to giving $1,000 each. Okay? So 100 people for $6,400, 100 people for $2,000, and then 100 people for $1,000 each. And of course, there's going to be some people that we just need to help volunteer in multiple ways. When we find these 300 people that can help us financially, when we find these people that can help us on the volunteer role, we're going to have ourselves a ball game. Okay? And ladies and gentlemen, it's a ball game that we must win. I think you'll agree with me on that, right? I know it's easy for me to raise my hand. My wife and I are all in. Are you guys all in with me? That's right. That's right. So, on behalf of Mark and Kelly, thank you guys for being here with us today. Please keep them in your prayers. God bless you, and God bless great state of North Carolina.
Thanks for coming. Happy birthday again, babe.